Throughout history, industrial progress has often come at a terrible cost. The relentless drive for innovation and efficiency has sometimes overshadowed the essential need for safety and ethical considerations. Major industrial accidents serve as stark reminders of the potential for human error and negligence to have catastrophic consequences. These incidents are not just isolated events, but are often the result of systemic failures and lapses in judgment. These tragedies leave behind not only physical devastation, but also indelible scars on the lives of countless individuals and communities. Families are torn apart, livelihoods are destroyed, and the emotional toll can be immeasurable. By examining these dark chapters, we gain a deeper understanding of the importance of safety regulations, ethical practices, and the constant need for vigilance in an increasingly industrialized world. It is through these painful lessons that we can hope to prevent future disasters. From the poisonous gas leak in Bhopal, which claimed thousands of lives and left many more suffering from chronic health issues, to the nuclear disaster at Chernobyl, which rendered an entire region uninhabitable and caused long-term health effects for countless people, each tragedy offers crucial lessons that continue to shape industrial safety practices today. These events have led to stricter regulations, improved safety protocols, and a greater awareness of the potential risks associated with industrial activities. These disasters force us to confront uncomfortable truths about our responsibility to protect human life and the environment. They challenge us to rethink our priorities and to place a higher value on safety and ethical considerations. They highlight the devastating consequences of prioritizing profit over safety, cutting corners, and neglecting essential maintenance. When safety is compromised, the cost can be measured in human lives and environmental destruction. Each event serves as a stark reminder that the pursuit of progress must never come at the expense of human well-being. True progress is achieved when innovation and safety go hand in hand, ensuring that advancements benefit everyone without causing harm. By learning from these tragedies, we can strive to create a safer future for workers and communities around the world. It is our collective responsibility to ensure that the lessons of the past are not forgotten and that we continue to prioritize safety and ethical practices in all industrial endeavors. Through rigorous training, adherence to safety protocols, and a commitment to ethical practices, we can build a future where industrial progress and human safety coexist harmoniously. Let us honor the memories of those affected by past tragedies by working tirelessly to prevent future ones. In the early hours of December 3, 1984, a nightmare unfolded in Bhopal, India. A Union Carbide pesticide plant leaked a deadly gas, methyl isocyanate, into the atmosphere. The toxic cloud spread silently through the densely populated city, catching residents unaware as they slept. Over 500,000 people were exposed to the gas. The immediate aftermath was horrific. Thousands died within hours, their lungs scorched by the poisonous gas. Hospitals were overwhelmed with the injured and dying, struggling to cope with the scale of the disaster. The official death toll stands at over 3,700, but many believe the true number to be far higher. The long-term consequences of the Bhopal disaster are immeasurable. Survivors suffered from chronic respiratory illnesses, eye problems, and psychological trauma. Children born after the disaster exhibited higher rates of birth defects and developmental issues. The disaster left a lasting legacy of pain, suffering, and anger in Bhopal. The Chernobyl disaster in 1986 stands as a chilling reminder of the devastating power of nuclear energy when it escapes our control. It was a moment in history that changed the way the world viewed nuclear power forever. On April 26th, a flawed reactor design and human error led to a catastrophic explosion at the Chernobyl nuclear power plant in Ukraine. The reactor, known as RBMK, had significant design flaws that were not fully understood or addressed by the operators. The explosion released a massive plume of radioactive material into the atmosphere, spreading dangerous isotopes across Europe and beyond. This radioactive cloud traveled with the wind, affecting numerous countries and causing widespread panic. The immediate impact was devastating. Buildings were destroyed, fires raged, and the air was thick with radiation. The local population was caught off guard, with many unaware of the severity of the situation. 31 people died in the explosion and its immediate aftermath. These included plant workers and emergency responders who bravely faced the initial chaos. However, the long-term consequences of the radiation exposure continue to unfold. The invisible enemy, radiation, seeped into the environment, affecting countless lives over the years. Thousands of people, including firefighters and cleanup workers, were exposed to high levels of radiation. These individuals, often referred to as liquidators, played a crucial role in containing the disaster but paid a heavy price. This exposure increased their risk of developing cancer and other serious health problems. Thyroid cancer, leukemia and other radiation-induced illnesses became tragically common among those exposed. The environmental impact of Chernobyl was also severe. Forests, rivers and wildlife were contaminated, creating a toxic legacy that persists to this day. The explosion contaminated vast areas of land, making them uninhabitable. The once thriving communities around the plant were evacuated, leaving behind ghost towns frozen in time. The exclusion zone, a 30-kilometer radius around the plant, remains largely deserted to this day. Nature has begun to reclaim the area, but the shadow of radiation lingers. The disaster highlighted the long-term dangers of nuclear accidents and the importance of robust safety protocols in the nuclear industry. It served as a wake-up call, leading to significant changes in nuclear safety standards worldwide. The lessons learned from Chernobyl continue to shape the policies and practices of the nuclear industry, ensuring that such a tragedy never happens again. On July 6, 1988, the North Sea was rocked by a massive explosion. The Piper Alpha oil platform, one of the most productive in the world, was engulfed in flames. A gas leak, coupled with a series of safety failures, led to a catastrophic explosion that ripped through the platform. 167 people lost their lives in the inferno. Many were trapped on the burning platform, forced to jump into the icy waters below. Rescue attempts were hampered by the ferocity of the blaze and the remote location of the platform. The Piper Alpha disaster sent shockwaves through the oil and gas industry. It exposed serious flaws in safety procedures, communication protocols, and emergency response plans. The disaster led to significant changes in offshore safety regulations, with a greater emphasis on risk assessment, fire safety, and emergency training. In 2013, the world watched in horror as the Rana Plaza building in Dhaka, Bangladesh, collapsed. This tragic event became one of the deadliest garment factory accidents in history, drawing international attention to the dire conditions faced by workers in the global fashion industry. This 8-story building housed several garment factories, employing thousands of workers, many of them young women. These workers toiled long hours for meager wages, producing clothing for some of the world's most well-known brands. Cracks had been discovered in the building the day before, but warnings were ignored and workers were ordered back into the factories. The decision to continue operations despite clear signs of structural failure was a fatal one, driven by the relentless pressure to meet production deadlines. The building crumbled within hours, trapping thousands inside. Rescue efforts were chaotic and desperate, as emergency responders and volunteers worked tirelessly to save as many lives as possible. The death toll reached a staggering 1,134, with over 2,500 injured. The scale of the disaster was overwhelming, leaving families shattered and communities in mourning. The Rana Plaza disaster was a stark reminder of the human cost of fast fashion and the exploitation of workers in developing countries. These workers often endure unsafe conditions, long hours, and inadequate pay, all to keep the cost of clothing low for consumers in wealthier nations. The tragedy sparked global outrage and calls for greater accountability in the garment industry. Activists, consumers, and even some brands began to demand changes to ensure that such a catastrophe would never happen again. It highlighted the urgent need for improved building safety standards, worker protections, and labour law enforcement. The disaster served as a wake-up call, prompting governments and organisations to re-evaluate and strengthen regulations to protect workers. The disaster shone a light on the often hidden human cost of cheap clothing and the exploitation that fuels the global fashion industry. It forced consumers to confront the reality behind their purchases and consider the ethical implications of their shopping habits. The Rana Plaza collapse remains a somber reminder of the need for ongoing vigilance and reform in the pursuit of a more just and humane fashion industry.